No Man's Sky is probably one of the most confusing games I've played this generation. That's not because it's hard or anything either. On the contrary, it's actually quite easy. The reason it's confusing is because I can't decide if I like it or not. Normally, this isn't a difficult task for me either. For most games, I can decide if I like it within the first hour or so. Yet, 3 or 4 hours into my journey across the cosmos, and here I am still hopping back and forth on this opinion. Hey guys, it's Jessey from GameFans.com, and these are my first impressions of No Man's Sky on the PlayStation 4. No Man's Sky starts you out on a unique, procedurally generated planet. This means that where you start is entirely random, a place nobody else has ever visited. It's your home and your discovery. Your first task is to repair your ship, get a grip of some of the game's mechanics, and then go ahead and do your own thing. For me, this meant surveying my surroundings, learning how to use my multi-tool, a weapon that doubles as an actual weapon, as well as a mining tool, and then rocketing off into outer space. Before leaving my planet though, I did a little bit of soul searching. Okay, so I wandered around aimlessly, but you get the point. My first discovery was new life. If I wanted to, I could have named the life anything that I wanted, within reason of course. Things like profane words won't slip by Hello Games' censors though. They thought about that. After cataloging my creature in my book, I quickly took out my multi-tool and killed it. I'm not exactly sure why I killed it. I guess it was an instinctive reaction, or I wanted to test out the Sentinels, these robots that patrol each of the planets, and they try to mitigate the amount of resources that you take from the planet or the amount of creatures that you kill. However, after killing the beast, I was overwhelmed with a sense of sadness. I felt really bad about what I had just done, and that's something that I've never felt while playing a game. I realized that at that moment, I had no clue if there was more of it on my planet. I might have just killed off the last of its kind. My stomach lurched at this thought. Just a few seconds after this realization though, I stumbled upon more of the same creatures. To make up for my gross act, I fed some of them some minerals and went on my way. By the looks of things, they were pretty pleased. After my rendezvous with the planet's wildlife, I spent the rest of my time on this planet mining resources. Once I was done, I hopped in my ship and rocketed straight into the air. This is one of the most surprising things for me. Those moments in early trailers where the player would seamlessly go from planet to space, that actually works. I was taken aback by how easy all of it was. There weren't any load times or waiting around either. I just kept speeding forward, and before I knew it, I was in the dark, cold nothingness that is space. The first thing I did from here was turn my ship around to take a look at my planet. It was ginormous. I'd go as far as to say it was about the size of the Earth, and from my experience, that seems to ring true for most of the planets in No Man's Sky. That's not necessarily a good thing though. I'll explain why in a moment. Once I was done marveling at the technical accomplishments of the game, I set off from my starter planet to a space station. I wanted to sell some goods to the locals. Landing on one of the space stations for the first time actually scared me. Everything was so quiet. The whole place seemed deserted, and not knowing what to expect creeped me out. Was there going to be a hostile alien on board? Would I have to fight my way back to my ship? Ultimately, there ended up being around 3 or 4 doors I couldn't open, so I guess I'll never get the answer to that question. Now, it was time to go to another planet. I saw what appeared to be a mostly water planet nearby. Actually, no, that's not quite right. At normal speed, my radars indicated that it'd take about an hour to get to the planet. Again, No Man's Sky is very large. However, I used the hyperspeed to get there faster. I could have used the pulse drive, but I didn't know at the time, and that does help travel from place to place a lot faster. That would have cut my time at least down by around 80%. Once I got to the planet, I looked around briefly, went to a depot to trade and sell some of my minerals. Again, I mined the place and set off to a new planet. The same thing happened at the next planet. If you're noticing a pattern, you're paying attention. The most interesting thing I've done so far happened at my most recent planet, KO-35. Shout out to those Power Rangers and space fans out there. When I initially landed, I started going through the same motions again. Look for a depot and go from there. The first depot I stumbled upon had 2 sentinels patrolling it. At the time, I thought that the sentinels were going to attack me because they had noticed that I was the same person from Planet L, the previous planet I had been on, and I kind of wreaked havoc on there, stripping the place of its resources and killing a lot of the animals. But come to think of it, later on I found out that certain planets will have certain different sentinels. So maybe one planet will have very docile sentinels that'll only attack you if you're trying to get into a place you're not supposed to go into. Meanwhile, another planet will have entirely hostile sentinels that'll attack you no matter what. Either way, I quickly dispatched of those two sentinels and ran to the depot before backup could come. The depot was a mess. There were tentacles everywhere and a circle thing just sitting in the middle, begging to be touched. So I touched it. The thing informed me of something, and my character said something, and I hopped back in my ship on the search for the next depot. Honestly, I can't really say that I care much about what little narrative there is to No Man's Sky. It's all so insignificant. Anyway, I found the next depot and rinse and repeat until I went onto the other depot on the planet. But this one was different. I paused just as the doors opened. This one was in the same condition. What was going on, I thought to myself, followed by a slight tense feeling in my body. I felt like I was on the set of the original Alien movie and something was going to attack me. I apprehensively made my way deeper into the depot, taking note of the now open door to my left. As I crept deeper into the hallway, I prepared myself to hightail it out of there just in case whatever was terrorizing this planet hadn't quite finished with this depot. The tentacles wrapped around the room, engulfing anything in their path. I was terrified, but hey, a box. Oh, wait, no, I didn't have any inventory space, so I couldn't get anything from the boxes. Go figure. Inventory management in No Man's Sky is a huge problem. Oftentimes, I couldn't grab a certain item because I was completely out of inventory space. There's also a very annoying survival element for some odd reason. On each planet are different weather conditions. You're not a native to the planet, so the exosuit you're wearing takes care of any oxygen and general living things you need to survive. That means a constantly depleting meter that you have to get resources and refill. That also means a robotic voice repeatedly telling you when you're low on energy.
Toxic protection. Fully.
It's annoying. The inventory and meter management minigames are huge factors preventing this game from being completely fun. I couldn't tell you how much time I've spent inside those menus trying to refill all my meters because they keep going down over and over again within not even a minute, just maybe 30 or 40 seconds. They bog down the exploration. Instead of focusing on my discoveries on a new planet, I'm more concerned with how I'm going to make room to open a box that might not even have an item that's worth all that trouble. Anyway, as I walked toward the last box, something struck me from above. I reeled back and instinctively jabbed the right thumbstick on my DualShock 4 up, ready to blast that thing back to Kingdom Come. Except I couldn't use my multi-tool in here. Okay. Luckily, the thing was a stationary tentacle, seemingly protecting the box. I didn't really care to approach it again, so I retracted my steps and then merged back onto the surface of KO-35. So yeah, something like that was interesting. There was a slight mystery and narrative to the moment. This brings to light the biggest problem I have with No Man's Sky. There's no narrative. Or rather, the narrative that is in No Man's Sky just doesn't feel important, like I mentioned before. I've seen the 3 paths in the patch notes, but what I haven't seen is any clear sign of that in the game. 3 or 4 hours into my journey, and I'm just now getting to the point where I can start doing the Path of the Atlas, which lets me get an Atlas key, which is something that I needed from the very start of the game. It's really annoying, and it's something that should have been brought forward in the beginning, if not within the first half hour, not 3 or 4 hours into it. There's also nothing to indicate that going to the center of the galaxy or universe is your overall objective. Right now, the only thing I've done during my 4 hours with the game is go from planet to planet mining resources. That's it, and frankly, I don't think it's that fun. Yeah, I'm still doing it for some cynical reason, but I'm not really enjoying myself too much. Perhaps the biggest problem I have with No Man's Sky is the promise of 18 quintillion planets, yet largely my planet-to-planet experience has been the same. It doesn't matter how large your game is, if the player is going to experience the exact same thing from planet to planet with a different color palette swap and animals that feel largely the same again. That's the problem. This game just feels like a whole bunch of samey stuff underneath a survival element that doesn't really need to be there. At this point in my playthrough, I'm convinced that No Man's Sky is boring. The survival elements keep the small, fun elements from flourishing, but even those elements lose their spark after you realize that you're doing the same thing over and over again. And those are my impressions of No Man's Sky on the PS4. Will it get any fun? Will it introduce a narrative? Find out the answer to these questions and more next week when I publish my No Man's Sky review on GameFans.com. Until next time, I'm Jesse from GameFans.com, and I'll talk to you guys later.